Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'll say good evening. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. As always, I'm your host, Matt Tardio. And as always, we like to thank our sponsor, Bravo Energy Pouches. 50 milligrams of caffeine per pouch, 20 pouches per can. You can't go wrong. Link in the description down below. Code TRUTH gets you 10% off. Don't forget to grab them. We'll talk about them here in a little bit. Now, you know war with Iran is coming when Ted Cruz is talking about how we gave them chance after chance after chance. And today we have explosions that are being reported over inside Tehran. This is a second day in a row at what appears to be yet another Iranian nuclear site. Now, this doesn't look like the U.S. has started bombing them. No, instead, what it actually looks like is sabotage. We're going to go over that and we're going to explain it in a minute. And this particular site that actually ended up getting hit has the IAEA all over it. They have been reporting on this place for a while. They believe it's one of their nuclear test sites. They've got a ridgeline right next to it, all sorts of crazy stuff. So we're going to get into that and so much more, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys are ready. Hope you guys are ready for an amazing show. Let's get it cranked off with none other than Ted Cruz.
Donald Trump gave the exact same offer to Maduro. You can leave, you can live a life of wealth and opulence away from power, and Maduro told Trump no. And on January 3rd of this year, we sent the Delta Force down there. We apprehended him. He's going to be prosecuted. Nicolas Maduro will die in prison. The Ayatollah and the mullahs have a choice. Do you want to be forcibly removed, or do you want to accept the opportunity to leave? I hope the Ayatollah has more sense than Noriega and Maduro had.
Did Cruz just admit or allege that we might be sending in CAG to go and take out the Ayatollah and his entire regime? Because that's kind of what it sounded like. He called him the Delta Force, which is kind of funny. Kind of reminds me of like how George Bush used to talk. They're both from Texas. Let's see here. We got AZ Malo's Gaming. I probably said that all sorts of wrong. Becoming a true supporter. Thank you, sir. Along with Dread 10 Mountain, gifting out 5 Speak the Truth memberships. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, as we get ready to kick this show off and we get going into it. Now, when is this strike going to take place? Yesterday, I talked about the Ford aircraft carrier that had made its way over through the Strait of Gibraltar, and it's got about 2 to 3 days to go until it ends up hitting Israel, so it could be as soon as Saturday. Other thing I ended up talking to you guys about last night was this, all right, that Representative Massey, or Massey, however you want to say his name, all right, is actually looking at presenting a bill forward next week that could potentially slow down Trump's ability to strike. So if Trump feels like there's a squeeze that's being put on him right now, he might just move this up as quick as possible, because if they try to push a war powers resolution in order to go back and forth in order to like stop Trump from striking Iran, he might want to act now, because there might actually be a huge thirst for that or a big appetite for it up over inside of the Senate. Why are you doing this to me? Why would you do that to me? Let's get, no, stop it. This unset. Why I'm getting why does it do that? Oh, my lordness. Why? Just why would you do that? Listen, there's reports that ended up coming out from the Daily Mail. I ended up getting like a warning up on my screen telling me that the site's unsafe and everything else, and I don't feel like digging through it. But Daily Mail tried saying that Trump got rushed into a meeting yesterday and that he ended up getting told that basically like a strike is imminent within the next couple of hours. White House came out and said, no, that's absolutely not the case. We are looking at diplomacy as the way forward. And truthfully, when I show you some of the assets that just got moved in the region, particularly some that landed over inside of Israel and some that are over inside of Jordan, you guys are probably going to agree that they were holding off until some of these got into the region, because they're, pretty good to have. Like, you need to have those over there. Dread 10 Mountain, becoming a true supporter, sir. Thank you very much. I felt like you just were, but I don't know, man. Maybe I missed it. No, you gifted out the memberships. My bad. All right. So before we get into all that, Tucker Carlson yesterday, he ended up having an issue over inside of Tel Aviv. When he landed, he tried claiming that the airport authorities had taken him and his producer, stole their passports, and basically yelled at him in the back for a while and interrogated him. And then it all came out. No, he actually landed over on a private air hangar, and that they took him inside, and it was actually like this really nice luxury lounge. We can get into all that. And then we have this new video by him that's getting dropped talking about Christians that are being kicked out of Bethlehem by Israel. Well, I went ahead and fact checked this. If you guys haven't heard it before, I'm going to let this 2-minute-ish opening liner play, then I'm going to rip it apart real quick, and we're going to get into Iran as more people are pulling in here.
Want to introduce you to Faraz Abraham, who is a Christian minister. He leads a ministry here in the United States, who is originally from a town called Bet Sahur, which is right outside Bethlehem, birthplace of Jesus. Bet Sahur, as you're going to hear him explain in a minute, is the place where the shepherds saw and the wise men saw the angels announce Jesus's birth in the Gospels. And
well, yeah, he does talk about that during the interview, says that, no, this is the area. It wasn't like Bethlehem itself. It was in Bet Sahur that ended up happening. Well, guess what? Everybody that's over inside the Middle East always claims that like some historical event ended up occurring in their location. So the fact that this guy's close to Bethlehem lends absolutely no, I mean, sure, you can look at it and say, yeah, it's possible. It got passed down oral tradition. But the thing is that everybody ends up saying that crap, that type of stuff. I'm sure if you go to any of the other neighboring towns to Bethlehem, they're going to tell you the same thing.
So he is literally from that town. It is a Palestinian village in what we call the West Bank of the Jordan River, that was part of Jordan until 1967, but has always been there. And it is a majority, about 80% Christian village. And it's disappearing. The Christians are leaving. And there's not a lot of debate about why they're leaving. They're not leaving because, primarily because of the Muslims. They're leaving because of Jewish settlers moved into the town by the Israeli government with funding from the United States, from a lot of Christians, by the way, in the United States, not just Jews, Christians in the United States, paying for these settlers to come and are driving out the Christian population. There is no rational justification for this. There's no moral justification for it. It's an atrocity. And it is almost never spoken about in non-polemical, honest ways. And this man came to our attention some months ago. We've talked to him extensively. We think he is a truly decent man who has no hate in his heart. You can judge for yourself. But no matter what side of this conversation you're on, and particularly if you're a Christian Zionist, and by the way, go ahead and remain one if you like.
Yeah, so there's only so much listening to Tucker Carlson that I can actually take. At one point, he brings the guy on. He starts saying, yes, it's happening. It's a horrible thing. And they're all going down. So now I'm just going to give you the quick and dirty facts so you guys don't have to waste an hour, almost 2 hours of your life watching that show. Incog Faraday, thank you very much for gifting out those 5 memberships, sir. So here are the facts as we start getting into the video. Number 1, the area that he's talking about, he ends up describing it as the West Bank, right? He comes in and he describes it as West Bank, and he said Jordan owned it, or Jordan, it belonged to Jordan up until like 67. That's not entirely true. As a matter of fact, it is extremely misleading. It's called the West Bank because it's west of the Jordan River. And after the partition plan of 1947 failed, when Egypt invaded Gaza and Jordan ended up invading over into the West Bank, that's when they actually took control of it, was in 1948. I believe it was in May of 1948 they ended up taking it. So between 1948 and 1967, Jordan actually occupied the West Bank, if we're going to use their language correctly. They occupied the West Bank, all right? At the time that ended up happening, you had what was believed to be about 80% Christians that lived inside of Bethlehem. 80%. 80% that lived inside Bethlehem. And then you get up to the mid-1990s, and we talk about the Oslo Accords, and it dropped all the way down to 40 to 45%. And reason has to do with a lot of different murders and atrocities and things like that ended up taking place. But I'm not going to give a complete and total history lesson across, this particular area, because that part's not even important. What is important is the extreme decline since the Oslo Accords in, 95? I think is when like the second portion was passed. In 93 or 94 is when they recognized the Palestinian Authority as the governing body of the Palestinian people. And then 95 is when they ended up establishing areas A, B, and C. Now, the interesting part is that area A is completely and totally owned, operated, governed, and provided security by the Palestinian Authority. And as you'll notice up on this map right here in the middle, where you see Bethlehem, it is all of it is in area A. It is completely and totally controlled by the Palestinians. When we get down to the particular portion, by the way, of where he's claiming to be from, which is Bet Lahore, it's actually right over here. Okay. And when we take a look on the map at where Bet Lahore is, you can see Palestinian area, or Palestinian built up area in 2015. But remember how I told you that partition plan got passed in 95. All right, the Oslo Accords, where Israel and the Palestinian Authority, and they agreed to what's going to be there. Area B is like mutual control. Area C is controlled by Israel. And this blue area that's on the map right there, that is the area that was agreed upon that was controlled by Israel. So let's start there. Number two, this map that I have up is really good at identifying Jewish settlers. Why? Because it comes from Conquer and Divide. This is actually a pro-Palestinian website. You go dig through it. You're more than welcome to, and you will see the exact same thing. All right. And when you get into that website, what you end up discovering is these dark blue areas right here. All of these are the Jewish settlements. And guess where they're all taking place in? They're taking place in Area C, all places that belong to Israel. Some of them are checking and coming a little bit close, but they're not inside of there. And particularly in this one, you can see that there is no Jewish settlements over in that particular frickin' village. And these people are getting updated by the Palestinians. They're whining, complaining about this stuff on a daily basis. But what this absolutely actually shows is not Israel encroaching on their territory as agreed by 1995. It certainly would seem like the Palestinians ended up encroaching on that territory, because since then, the Christian population, after it became under control of the Palestinian Authority, has dropped from over 40% to below 5%. Below 5% in Jerusalem. In this area, below 5, or not Jerusalem, excuse me, Bethlehem. Below 5% in Bethlehem ever since the Palestinian Authority took control. Ever since the PA took control, it has dropped from 40 to 45% down to less than 5%. It's not because the Jews are going in there. This whole area is owned by the frickin' quote unquote Palestinians and the Palestinian Authority. There's no Jews driving them out anywhere. If anything, what you have is Palestinians encroaching on Area C. Now, why would Israel keep that particular area? Because of this route that travels down into the greater portion. And this X right up here at the very top, that X, that's a freaking checkpoint to make your way back into like mainland Israel proper. All right. But this main supply route that's running all the way down into the south is what leads to it. That's why they have it, because it leads down into the Israeli controlled areas of the West Bank. So Tucker Carlson, freaking retard. I don't know how he didn't actually do his like homework on all of that, but it blows my mind. But it doesn't surprise me when he was hanging out in a terminal like this yesterday, ended up getting pulled to the side. These are all the celebrities, by the way, that also pass through that terminal. It's kind of like they pay a couple extra grand or whatever to land and go in there. And this is the lounge that him and his guy got pulled into, acting like he got yanked off into some crazy security area. Well, at least that's what's being reported. That's the lounge that he got pulled into. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, all I can say is the more you know. Let's start getting into Iran and what the hell's going on over there. Oh yeah, I don't even care. I've got a special statement that ended up coming. It doesn't even bother me at this point. I really don't even care. All right. So what does matter though is over inside of the Strait of Hormuz, outside of Iran. All right, over in international waters, the Iranian Navy, along with Chinese and Russian, have actually launched military exercises, shutting the dang thing down for the most part. Iran last night ended up coming out and issuing a NOTAMs, shutting down airspace over Iran. I believe it was up to 10,000 feet. People are saying it so that they can test their ballistic missiles, and it does say, I believe it says rocket fire. We're going to take a look at it here in just a second. So they have all of that going on at the same time. I told you guys last night, I believe the reason that we have Russia and China that are down at the freaking port in southern Iran is because Russia and China do not want the United States military to strike that port, Bandar Abbas, because if we do, all right, then we're going to have issues. Then we're going to have issues with Russia and China because there's a good chance we kill their military personnel, and we don't need that happening. I see little bro saying Matt back shilling for Israel. No, little bro. No, that's not shilling for Israel. That's just setting facts straight, setting the record straight for people that are here. And you're more than welcome to go look up those facts, literal facts that I just gave, as opposed from Tucker bringing in a guy that hasn't lived there and married a woman from Gaza that's spitting some narrative about how Israel's kicking everybody out. So you can take that for what it's worth. I've got no ties to anybody, and I'll correct Donald Trump. I'll correct freaking Joe Biden. I'll correct Tucker Carlson. I don't give a crap. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is actual facts. Like if you're going to hate somebody, at least hate them for the right reason. You know what I mean? So you can call it shilling. You can call it whatever you want. But when facts don't fit your narrative, that's not my problem. That's your problem, friend. Anyways, so, yep, there we go. we've got, that military exercise is taking place down there. It's important to know that that's going to be going on in that airspace that they are shutting down is going to be a bit of a problem. You guys can see the NOTAMs that ended up getting issued out. Started last night, should be over in, I don't know. Actually, it just ended. They have rocket launches that will take place within the flu coordinates. So they have all of these grids that they ended up giving out, lat longs that they gave out for rocket launches. They also were talking about small arms fire and everything else. Interesting part about this is the dispersion across the country of where they were at. Tehran is right up here in the middle. This yellow path allegedly is supposed to be like the rocket launches that were supposed to take place. So we're going to launch them from out here in the middle of the Strait of Hormuz, and then send them back over to a facility, a training ground or something like that in the middle of the country. But everything with red that you guys have up here is also gunfire. So they were also shutting down airspace for gunfire and everything else along the way. No huge reports I saw that ended up coming out as a result of that, but this is the one that I did see come out that is huge in my opinion. This, which I know it's a crappy picture, doing my best to get it to you, is actually an area called Perchin over inside of Iran. And it's got a huge military base that's over there. Now, I'm putting these pictures up on your screen, and we're going to go over the Google Maps and show this to you guys. But just a couple hours ago, they ended up reporting explosions out of here. I think the first report of this I saw was about 2 hours ago, and you're about to see why this place is so big. But I want you to take a look at this. You do have smoke that appears to be coming out of this one little, what do you call it? Like a draw that's going up this mountainside. So there you've got your anyways, I don't want to give a terrain class. Anyway, so you have the smoke that's coming out the draw, and it's big, thick, black, heavy smoke. So only reason that could be coming out following an explosion, and mind you, this is right after yesterday where we had another report of this taking place, is because, in my opinion, of sabotage. I think sabotage is your main culprit here. This, to me, as we go into it, is because we have a resistance movement inside of Iran that's blowing crap up in preparation for what's to come, which is going to be an inevitable U.S. strike. We saw these things taking place before the 12-day war. We saw a lot of them taking place before the 12-day war. And I think that we are going to continue to see these as the day goes on until bombs start falling from the sky. And they're going to increase. Now, the interesting part about this is it's an alleged nuclear site, which is great. And I say alleged, but the IAEA has written tons of reports on this thing. So I just want to throw that out there at the same time. Let's go take a look at this video. I've got several other angles of this thing going off as well for you boys and girls. Just wanted to show you guys like the smoke and that it is being covered from different angles of where it came out. And all sources that I've read on this have stated that it started with an explosion, like a rather large explosion. Nobody's saying that, this random fire just showed up. They're saying, no, sir, it was a freaking explosion, which, I mean, I'm kind of here for, to be honest. But the question is what caused the explosion? Here's another image. It's going to be a little bit harder for you guys to see, doing my best to show it up there on your screen, but it's from a different angle or direction. You could actually see 3 different smoke plumes in this one. And that to me says tunnels. Some of you guys are saying looks like old footage. No, it's people that are zooming in is what it is. It's people. Everybody's assuming that people in Iran are running around with like iPhone 17 or 18 or 19, whatever dang version we're on right now. That's just not the case, baby. Right? Like in the Middle East, you really don't have that many beautiful phones. Okay. And this area out here, which I'm about to pull up on the map and show you, has not a lot of people. Right. And you got a lot of military that's around there and a lot of government housing and things like that. Do I think it was a drop or from the inside? I believe it was from the inside. And I believe it's from the inside because of what we saw yesterday. Just to give you guys a reminder before I go back into Google Earth, let me open that up. I was going over this yesterday morning with you guys and talking about this. You guys remember the smoke clouds and everything in Paran that was on fire. This was the video we got out of there yesterday. You guys remember hearing about that one, right? So that is also right outside of Tehran. What I ended up noticing yesterday, I ended up going over this. This is the town itself. Census data on this town tries saying that there is 400-ish thousand people that live there. You take the updated imagery and then you include the high rises and stuff like that, and you throw it into AI to estimate population size for all the living arrangements and whatnot that are there. And anything that it can find open source, it actually comes back with max occupation of this particular town about 60,000, maybe 70,000. And that is like pushing it when you go into it. And the reason it's important is because there's actually a power plant, a brand new one that's right over here off the map. And that power plant sends a freaking line that can carry enough electricity, and it comes right up over here to where I'm circling this yellow box right outside this white building. And it carries enough electricity to supply up to 400,000 people. 400,000 people. The hillsides around there are freaking riddled with tunnels. You guys can see them. You can see vents. You can see all sorts of stuff. This is probably one of the crappiest hidden sites that they have. And again, it's right outside of Iran. Open it up Google Earth so that you guys can see what we're taking a look at here. Come on, let me drop a pin here so we can do. I don't want to lose you. And I probably just did. All right, so here is the area that we're looking at, which is right here. You guys see the Gorger National Park. We're going to zoom in right down here in just a second. And of course, you have Tehran right up over here in the middle. And then Shari Jadid Parand, this area right here, this is where that explosion was. So we're not really going too far away when we start talking about this location and what actually ended up occurring over there. I don't want to, there we go. Thank you. And go. I don't want to take you guys to the wrong spot. So here we go, and we're going to switch back. Open up Google. Come on. Satellite. Thank you. All right, so here's the interesting part about this. We're going to have to go down low a little bit. And when you get in there, you guys are going to see this ridge line that's right up here in the middle of your screen. I actually believe this is where those explosions are coming from or had come from. Reason I believe that is the initial report was coming from Parchin. And I actually saw it like the Persian spelling the first couple times I saw this hit. And I was like, let's wait and let's see what actually comes out of here. Now, the interesting part about this is you do have this ridge line, and this is almost the exact same setup as we saw over in that area from yesterday, where you have a ridge line right outside of a little area and everything's kind of built at the base of the ridge line. Now, first thing that I'm going to point out to you guys is actually over here within these clouds as we go down to look at it, and I zoom in on it, and it's this guy right here. When I first saw this, I thought it was like a Chinese or Soviet freaking like ICBM silo, something like that. Looked a little bit deeper into it. That's not what that is. And nor is that what the UN or anybody else thinks that is. What they actually believe that to be is a freaking explosion test chamber. You guys see how big that dang thing is, right? Like you guys see the highway just off to the left of it, the roadways and everything else. See how it's recessed into the ground and it's got those high walls and everything around it. Allegedly, this is where the international community believes Iran is actually testing the things that go boom with nuclear energy. That's what they think. You guys are calling it a water tank, things like that. Nope, they're calling it a freaking test chamber, which that for the life of me, I believe them. They do say that it's over at this site. That's what I've been able to find as far as that goes. But it's also right here next to this freaking mountain range. And, you know, one of these draws up over off to the side, judging by some of the imagery that we got coming out, I would assume it was people standing on the outskirts of this, looking up into the mountains. The dang thing about it is like when, you know, they were busy taking their maps, their satellite shots and stuff of this location, certainly appears as if we had a lot of overhead cloud coverage, but it's very, very well defended area. That grid that I actually just dropped on here earlier, that's way up here. You take a look at it, you have a dam that's right up above it. And as you start running down the highway to get in there, it also appears as if we have different checkpoints and whatnot leading into it that end up going down into the area. And as you search through all of the hills and everything, and you look at it, I mean, this is a pretty massive installation that they have going on here. I don't know how else to tell you guys that. The interesting part about yesterday was we had these little tree orchards that like the regime really loves. And we have those same tree orchards over here that they call like parks and everything else. So a lot of similar construction, a lot of things like that that are going into it. There's your dam that's leading up to it. And water is very important when you're playing with these types of things. So it doesn't surprise me that they have it downstream and they built all of this crap. Also wouldn't surprise me if they ended up building the dam for this particular reason, so that they could end up coming in and putting all this crap in downstream, making it easier for them to like dig into the mountainside. Haven't done too much digging, but there's tons of rat trails and stuff like that that are going up and down throughout these mountains. Haven't had enough time to go out and actually search for or look for the vent shafts that are coming out of it. But what history suggests is that they have dug into this ridgeline. There's certainly enough roads going into it. There's certainly enough infrastructure that's actually up here in the mountains, as you guys can see. Can't tell really if we have tunnel entrances, but certainly we have mining and stuff like that that's going on. This definitely kind of reminds me of one, the way it goes, because they dug it back into the freaking hillside. And then we have different structures and things like that. So it is very possible that this is one of the locations that they were digging in, and we've got actual entrances and whatnot that are up here. I just haven't, looked into this area enough to definitively say, yes, ladies and gentlemen, here's your tunnel entrances, that we were able to locate. But they got enough crap out here in the mountains that to me is questionable within itself. That doesn't really make any sense when we start zooming in on it. It's just the Iranians doing Iranian things, I guess. IRGC doing IRGC things. But yeah, all dug into the mountainside. So I would assume that this place is going to get blowed up sometime in the near future, or this could possibly be where they ended up moving in their enriched uranium over around Tehran. Now, the interesting thing about this, and this site in particular, these two locations, when we start talking about it, the report that I always reference about enriched uranium is down in these areas outside of Tehran. All right. Like like all of these areas down here south of Tehran, this is where the IAEA ended up finding the highly enriched uranium down here in this general vicinity. Okay. They found trace amounts up to, I believe it was 87.5% or 87%. I know it's pretty high. But these were sites that were undeclared and not disclosed. Those are the reports that ended up going up showing that Iran was not in compliance with the NPT. Right? So the way it works is Iran signs onto the nuclear non-proliferation agreement saying we're not going to end up blowing up half the freaking world as they're threatening to blow up half the world. They agree to let the IAEA come in and survey everything that they're doing and survey everything that they're building, to double check on it. And they are the ones that report on it. Now, they don't say they're in violation of the NPT. That report goes up to the UN and they take a look at it, and the UN says, meh, you guys made a boo-boo. And that's ultimately what ended up happening here. So as Iran's sitting around and they're trying to scream, we're not developing nuclear weapons, all right, everybody is screaming, yes, you are. They're all screaming, yes, you are. We're still wondering and asking what happened to the 450 kilograms plus of 60% enriched uranium that they had and that they were holding on to. So Iran is stating that they're not going to give it up and they're not going to talk about it because of all of these different demands. Dylan Reed says, do you think when the green light happens, we are going to just level Iran, or will it be more of a drawn out war? I think we're going to level the shit out of it. Honest assessment. I think we're going to level the crap out of it. The amount of aircraft that we have over in that region is insane. I saw a report of up to 100 refueling tankers. I don't think that's true. I'm pretty sure the number's around like 30 or 40 in total that we have over there, but it's a buttload of refueling tankers that we've moved in the area. Aircraft, fast movers, all of that stuff, right around 150, 130, 150 fast movers off the top of my head. We have going in there, aerial defense assets and everything that's moved into the region. All of that crap, all of it screams that we are going to blow this place to oblivion. As far as the strike capabilities that are being built up over there, I do believe the strike capabilities that we have are some of the most that we've seen in the area since the Iraq War. However, that same is not true for ground forces. Our ground forces really haven't changed too much over inside the area, right? When we start talking about infantry troops and crap like that, as a matter of fact, they've actually started withdrawing more and more from these different locations. When we go and we start talking about Jordan, right, for example, and the Al-Tanf base, everybody had pulled out from that location, is going back over to the airfield over there. Israel, We do have some assets that are still in there. We do have some U.S. troops that are outside of Gaza helping out with the command center over inside Gaza. We have U.S. destroyers that are out here. I believe we still have aerial defense assets that are in the area, but the bulk of our military buildup is actually in Jordan with aircraft, also over in Qatar, in the UAE, okay? Bahrain, UAE, all right? So this area right here is the bulk of the United States military buildup between this coastline right here and over inside Jordan. There is rumors that are going around that the United States, and this is the second time now that I've seen it, ended up moving bombers into here. That's not true. There's no known reports of bombers that I'm aware of. Ended up coming out last week. Mainstream media actually reported on it, and it got debunked. So if you see that, we don't have any bombers that I'm aware of over in the region yet. And the same footage I saw that people are trying to confirm that the bombers were over in the UAE was debunked last week from like freaking footage from years ago. And people are trying to push the same crap again. Incock saying Iran just lies and stirs up crap since 79. You're 100% correct. That is exactly what they do and what they've been doing. Nothing really has changed about the U.S. posture over here. Outside of the Gulf of Oman, right? We still have our aircraft carrier and different destroyers and stuff like that are out there, as Iran's Navy is just out here plugging away with the Russians and the Chinese. The Bandar Abbas port that I talked about, where the Russian and Chinese are staging for these military exercises, are right over here. And this is also a main shipping and supply port. So that's kind of what's going on over there. Dive a little bit deeper into the area for you guys if you'd like. But those are basically your updates. And then the other big update that ended up coming out was a blackout, like a power blackout, that ended up being reported last night over inside of Tehran. I don't know whether or not that's true. I saw a couple reports of it, but didn't really see that many after it. So it was a blackout in Tehran. This nuke site that's going off and burning, and then also the nuke site over here that's going off and burning from yesterday. I haven't checked up for any updates on this one yet, but I got a feeling if it's underground and it's burning, it's just going to keep burning until it can burn no more. That would be kind of like my thoughts on that. Now, the other big thing that's going on in Iran yesterday was protests. The protests are continuing for the 40th anniversary of the deaths of the protesters. They're going to the graveyards, the funeral sites, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like protesting Khomeini and just losing their crap. Now, this video is being reported as if it was yesterday, but I want you guys to know that it could be from 2 days ago. That's enough of that. Chrisers, thank you very much for your birthday gift, sir. I really appreciate it, man. You always make me smile, man. You guys are freaking great. All right. E3 Sentries have made their way over into the Prince Sultan Air Base over inside of Jordan. Chinese imagery is what's actually coming out and giving us crap, and literally outlining like all of the different aircraft we have. This row right here, you're looking at KC-135 Stratotankers, all of these right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, so here you've got 11 freaking refueling aircraft. You can see your Sentries sitting that are right here. Then you got a bunch of Hercules, and then you got more Stratus tankers sitting in the back. This is also the place where we have a bunch of F-18, I believe it's the F-18s, the Growlers. We've got, what the hell, man, F-35s. We've got F-22s. Like that place is loaded down with aircraft. And it is the vast majority, in my opinion, from what I've seen, the vast majority of our aircraft that are over in the region. So the fact, in my opinion, that we have so many of these dang refueling tankers on the ground there screams to me, and the sentries, right? Sentries are important. But the fact that we have so many refueling tankers that are parked over there inside Jordan, what that's telling me is that we are going to have some sustained bombing campaign, like a big sustained bombing campaign. That is a lot of aircraft, all right? And even these air crews, like that are out there flying all of these things, and the reason you have it, and you get so dang many of them, obviously all 13 or whatever that were just up on that screen aren't going to be up there at the same time. Neither are the fighter pilots. You guys got to understand that they are mandated to have X amount of rest. They are mandated to have like X amount of, maintenance per flight hour and all of that crap and all these safety, concerns and stuff like that that go into it. So they'd be like rotating these things out. And so when I see like that level, all right, of freaking support aircraft for the fighters, that's what I think. When I see that level of like so many centuries and all of that crap that are up over there, all I can think is that they are going to be rotating air crews. This is what leads me to believe to be like a extended bombing campaign, not just a one smash and we're done, or send in CAG to rip some dudes out. No, I think we're going to be bombing the crap out of them. And the reason I think we're going to be bombing the crap out of them is supporting the resistance movements that are clearly on the ground at this point and that are like causing this sabotage over inside of Iran. That's what we're seeing over inside of Jordan as far as that buildup goes. And reportedly, all right, a U.S. Special Operations Command C-32B aircraft ended up landing over inside of Israel earlier today as well. I originally saw a couple different reports of this. They're saying it's in there. Whether or not it's there, whether or not it's that particular aircraft, special operations aircraft, whatever, people do have videos and images of either this aircraft or sentries that are flying around. Not really sure which one it is, to be honest, but there's plenty of U.S. aircraft that have been landing. Like we definitely see an uptick of aircraft that are landing over inside of Israel as well. This is one that I was unable to verify, unfortunately, or we ended up wiping, because this report ended up coming out, we ended up wiping the flight data of it off. It wouldn't surprise me because, what is it? It's a 12-day war, or leading up to the 12-day war. I was spotting these guys flying over in Jordan, and we were spotting combat ops of dudes that were forgetting to flick their transponders off. They were flying up over into Syria from Jordan. And then I've also spotted them, running ops over inside of Jordan itself. But anyways, this is a E-18 Growler that ended up taking off. And this is your like electronic warfare freaking fighter that goes out to knock a lot of that crap out. So it is possible that they are starting now to do rotations and or what's called like probing or softening up the target. If that's what's actually taking place, that is very interesting. That means we're a hell of a lot closer to striking Iran than I would believe. If we're doing dry runs and we're poking and prodding at Iran just to see what they respond and how they do, that's very interesting if that's in fact what we are doing. That would mean that a strike is coming within the next couple of days. I'll remind you that they're trying to push the War Powers resolution next week to try to prevent Donald Trump from actually doing this campaign. So what does all of that equal? In my mind, all of this equals that we do have, an imminent strike that's coming up on a day to be determined. And probably one of the most interesting things, I think it's actually underreported. A lot of people are talking about the amount of U.S. aircraft that have entered the region. But the RAF, or the Royal Air Force, has actually entered the region. I think it was last week when I was talking about seeing some Typhoons or something like that were landing down there. But this just hit today. Last month, it was the end of January, is when the EU voted and approved that the IRGC was going to be put on the foreign terror organization list, or the terrorist organizations list. That just dropped today. Now, I am not familiar with laws over in the EU, but I know it's going to allow them to do all the different sanction stuff and whatnot that's going to come down. I also have a feeling that is going to give a lot of people different targeting options. This is a big signal, as far as I'm concerned, for things to come, that it's just not the United States that want them ripped out. that we now have the EU on board. And like I said, UK aircraft flying up over into the Middle East last week, likely because this was coming down. So now we can assess reasonably, in my opinion, that we're not just going to have the United States and we're not just going to have Israel, but we'll probably have some EU nations that are going to take part in this as well. If that's the case, that regime is going to get smashed into the ground. And I'll remind you too that the EU is a hell of a lot closer to Iran than the United States. And there is bombers and things of that nature over there that can go over and take out freaking targets inside of Iran. So just because we're not seeing aircraft being launched and sent, like I think the U.S. has the fighter jet portion covered, my friend. Just because that's not being sent out there right now doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to do anything about it. Yesterday, Donald Trump came out and he was complaining about Diego Garcia to the UK, saying that they need to make sure that they can retain it because Diego Garcia is going to be clutch. It's going to be key, and you can't let that freaking place go. And also worried that Iran might try to do something to attack it. During the 12-day war, ended up doing an assessment on some different things that Iran has within their capabilities, and it didn't appear to me like they were actually capable of striking Diego Garcia, but they could come reasonably close. And I mean, reasonably close. They could get down there, but hell man, I don't know if they're actually going to be capable of doing it or not. But as we continue to, take this journey and we go down, not a heck of a lot more to talk about over inside of that area other than the things that I've discussed and gone over with you guys. And so for that reason, ladies and gentlemen, what I'd like to do now is open up the Discord with you guys and get in there. We were having a Discord chat yesterday, and I ended up cutting it off a little bit early. So I would like you guys to be able to pour into the Discord right now to go over there and have a discussion and a chat about all of these things. I believe I got about 20-ish minutes that are left as we get the Discord up and spinning. So by all means, feel free to pull in there. Let me make sure my camera's turned on so you guys can do it. Yes, the camera is turned on. And ladies and gentlemen, now is the time for me to bring up my favorite portion of the show, which is our sponsor of the day, Bravo Energy Pouches. Ladies and gentlemen, 50 milligrams of caffeine per pouch, 50 milligrams of caffeine per pouch. You get 20 pouches per can, and it's caffeine that goes straight into your bloodstream. I have one in right now, which is probably why I'm talking so flippin' fast as I go through this. It is the cleanest caffeine you will ever have, in my opinion. It's made with all natural food ingredients. You can swallow these dang things, or excuse me, not all natural, but food ingredients. You can swallow these dang things and still feel pretty dang good about yourself, right? The way it ends up working is you throw the pouch in and you have caffeine that goes straight into your freaking bloodstream. I don't know how else to say that. Average cup of coffee, 80 milligrams. These pouches, 50, but it's 50 being injected straight into your bloodstream, which is great. And there's no crash. I put it in probably takes about 5 to 10 minutes, in my opinion, for these pouches to actually kick in. But when they kick in, you notice it. Said the second day I put one of these in, I went to go over to the gym. After my first set, I was like, wow, I need to take this out. Like, if you want to use one of these as a pre-workout, it'll do it. Like, I promise you, like, it'll take care of it. And right now you use code TRUTH, you guys can get up to 10% off using code TRUTH over there at bravoenergypouches.com. Go check them out. Ladies and gentlemen, over inside of the Discord, how are we doing today? You guys feel free to come up on the stage if you want. I don't see any hands raised right now, but you're more than welcome to come up, raise your hand so that we can have a discussion over inside the Discord. Texas is a little busy. I know he's been slammed lately over inside of Ukraine with all the different crap that he's doing. But it's like a caffeine IV. Absolutely. You guys are saying you can't hear anybody. That might mean that I need to back out quietly and then reconnect. So if that's the case, I am going to go back in there, trying again. Yep. There we go. Now it appears. Now can you guys hear me? If you guys can hear me, give me a thumbs up in the chat. We'll give that sucker a go again. So if you guys can hear me, thumbs up in the chat. Tell me that you guys are good to go, and we'll get this sucker rolling so we can have those. Ryan, what's up, buddy? Good to see you down there.
I can hear you now.
Okay, so you guys couldn't hear me before?
No.
Well, that's always frustrating. How you been?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Good, man. I'm going to pull in Mitnick. Oh, man. There we go. Is it Mitnick? Is that right, brother?
Yeah, that's right.
What's going on?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, thanks. You? I was I tuned into the live a little bit late, but I was gonna say, did you manage to, or at least hear of the UK basically saying that the US isn't allowed to launch from Diego Garcia or from RAF Fairford?
No. When did that happen?
Yes, the past hour.
Really?
Yep.
Well, that kind of makes sense.
I don't know if it's just a political argument over it or what, but
that makes sense because the U.S. that had to have been going on for a while because the U.S. I think all I saw down there was just a couple like refueling aircraft and things like that over the last month. Like it wasn't that much, and I was wondering because before the last time we ended up having a ton of crap that was down there.
Yep. And typically, if there's anything happen in the Middle East, you might typically see some Lancers and stuff launch from places like Fairford,
Right.
but it doesn't look like that's the case this time.
Yeah. Well, that's probably why we have such a big old buildup. The one thing that hasn't been spotted across the Middle East is our bombers. So are we just launching all of our bomber aircraft from the United States and then having them land over there afterwards? Because it was my impression that a lot of the countries over inside the Middle East were like, you can stay here, but you can't attack Iran from here.
Exactly, and that was my assumption, was that it was going to be from Fairford and it was going to be from Diego Garcia, but if that's not the case now, then who knows?
Well,
It might end up being a long sortie like it was last time.
Yeah, and I mean, if it's a long sortie, that's a hell of a trip. And I mean, because they're going to have to land, because you can't land those freaking things on a carrier. Can you? No, they're too heavy. No, you can't land a bomber on a carrier. That's not going to happen. Yeah, so
the wingspan as well.
Yeah, I mean, they got to land somewhere and refit and then go back over. I don't know, man. Question for you, I guess, as we're going to this. I'm Not Blind 84 says, is it likely to stay indirect through regional proxies, or are we way past that and approaching direct conflict between the U.S. and Iran, or state on state? I think we can look at this. My opinion is us bombing the crap out of them is state on state. Like that's flat out state on state. But as far as ground forces go, I think it's just going to be proxies minus maybe a special operations raid, not in the first week, after multiple days of sustained bombing to make sure a bunch of, stuff is taken out. But I would think eventually maybe we might do an in and out, but other than that, no. I think we're counting on people on the ground. What do you guys think about that?
I think that the special forces will go in, like you said, but there'll be more of like a mop-up crew to make sure that we hit everything and that nothing got moved around that we didn't see at the last second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I totally agree.
Yeah, no, guys, also, too, let's not just downplay this either. So here's the truth. The problem's not going to be getting rid of the regime. The problem is going to be the building up afterward. That's what failed in Iraq. But the good news is, from a lot of my friends that I've talked to who are 10 times smarter than me on this, the good news is Iran actually has the building blocks for the democracy that's needed. Like, there's a lot of the old institutions that kind of stayed intact. So the only thing we have to do is insert the proper individuals to use those institutions to get an actual democracy running.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, we can bomb it all day we want, like the same way we got stuck in Iraq for so long, or we were in Afghanistan. We can fire, shoot, do anything we want for like 20 years straight. But if we don't build back, it's not gonna be worth a damn. It's just gonna be Vietnam again. Like, the whole point is we need to build back once we get the regime out. And again, as I've been told by my friends that, again, are supporting me, that Iran actually has a really good chance of building back better due to the fact that they already do have a lot of institutions to build back better already set up in the first place. They just need a regime change.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Iran's gonna build back better, to be honest. Like, there's gonna be like, who was it? I was listening to somebody the other day say that, like, if we end up doing this, that there's gonna be a lot of bloodshed and people are gonna die. And it's like, yes, every single time you flip a regime, there's going to be a civil war. Like, that's gonna happen. That's just the nature of the beast, right? Like, there will be a power struggle. I don't care if the West has a puppet that we end up putting in place, which I think everybody knows whose is going to be. But they're going to, at the end of the day, they're going to, however you want to say it, they're going to fight, and people are going to die. Right? Like,
My thing is that they're going to have probably an insurgency like we did in Iraq due to the IRGC loyalists that will do anything at any cost to disrupt, to make the government fail that we try to establish.
Yeah. 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 I also worry about the IRGC and everybody else just doing wild stuff, not just over in the Middle East, but also like here in the United States of America and abroad, like different terror attacks and things like that, because kind of like the Russians, where you've got FSB guys that are planted all over the world, you know, the IRGC has the same crap going on. And so I'm also concerned that we're going to see some stuff like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
I don't know if you covered it, but UK refused the United States for landing at Diego Garcia.
Yeah, we just brought that up right when we went live in the Discord. But I told him, I was like, I think that's the whole reason why we haven't been staging anything at Diego Garcia in the first place. Like, I was expecting, I've been watching that, and there was only, I think I saw like 2 refueling tankers or something like that down there, a freaking oil ship, whatever you call it. So, and yeah, we can take off from the United States, you know, and we can fly all the way around the world and back. But the amount of time in between those sorties is what the problem is, you know. That's a lot of flight crews. It's a lot of flight hours. It's a lot of, you know, stuff that's going to take place. Yeah, maintenance. I don't even know what the maintenance is on that.
Something ridiculous. It has to be
guaranteed. Yeah, and Trey Yingst is saying that, like, basically the Middle East is preparing for it in the upcoming days as well. So
yeah. I don't think you saw my joke, but I tagged you in a joke. It was when the United States was playing against Denmark in hockey. I was like, if whoever wins that game should get Greenland. And the United States won, so we should get Greenland.
I don't believe this is true. I'm hoping this is AI. Otherwise, I would have seen this before. But I'm seeing a report that the Gerald R. Ford, the U.S.'s largest aircraft carrier, is off the coast of Israel right now. There's no freaking way. There's no freaking way that's what I'm looking at. Yeah, hold on. Like, I don't believe that. That's nuts. If
that has to be AI or something.
I would think so, particularly with how close it is. Yeah, I'm gonna go with no, because I haven't seen it yet. But like I predicted though, so it wouldn't. Here's the thing though. The last, like, when it flicked off its transponder the first time, it was over by Puerto Rico, and that was coming up on like 2 weeks ago. And they just announced the other day that it was deploying and heading over there. It could have flicked itself off and been running its butt over there this whole time, and the U.S. could be running an information campaign, you know, so Iran's not ready to be struck.
Yeah.
Like,
that makes sense.
We are the United States. Like, I know we want to scare the crap out of people sometimes, but we already got enough stuff to scare the crap out of them. But the arrival of that sucker off the coast of Israel, which is what I was saying, it's one of those things. I think that it's good enough, and we're just going to launch from there.
Yeah, we could have honestly just used the land bases in Israel if we wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's that's why I'm like sitting over here looking, because I've got a feeling that it could kick off today. Weird, sneaky suspicion that it could kick off today.
Hey Matt, have you heard anything more about the door jigglers down in Southern California?
Other than the fact that it's an active investigation, no.
Okay.
And I'm looking at going out there next month.
Awesome.
What the fuck is a door juggler?
Some guys
Mexican
dressed up as
army?
Mexican army that crossed the United States border and frickin' were jiggling door handles in the United States. Ended up originally had the video, and I'm like, "Are you sure I'm good to share this?" And they're like, "Yeah." I spent like 3 hours because it was a horrible cell phone video of this guy that was like trying to keep it steady. That like ended up taking the video. Plus, we had some other like not webcam, but trail cam videos and stuff like that. These guys, I spent forever editing that video, making sure it was like good, stable, and good to go. And then right as I'm getting ready to like send this off and like be able to be like, "Hey, Mexican Army, what the hell's up?" They're like, "Whoa, stop. There's an investigation. Don't screw this up." I'm like, "Come on." So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you saw, but China is like trying to develop a Terminator. I'm hoping it's AI, but not too sure. But they're trying to develop like Terminator robots.
Those are real, and we've been doing that for a while.
Yeah, no, like you ever seen the freaking Roomba with a minigun strapped to it?
Yeah.
No, it's like robots that are walking while shooting.
Yeah, no, I've seen the video.
Strap. Also, look, I wouldn't fear any robots that are bipedal because honestly, any bipedal robots are kind of just not going to be that great because all you have to do is knock them over.
So they're saying we've got a Poseidon that's flying up over the Strait of Hormuz right now, a P-8 Poseidon, which would be cool. And we've seen them doing that for a while. So we are seeing more active flights that are taking place over there. But as far as what we see coming, I don't think we are. We go over, we take a look at flight radar. Still got lots of flights that are operating in and around Iran. And I would have no surprise that we have Poseidons that are cruising around over there right now. There's your NA. There's your P-8 Poseidon. Your sub hunter that's stalking the Strait of Hormuz. Amazing. I was able to find it that quick. Simply amazing. Took off from Bahrain. Then went over, and it's just going back and forth and back and forth. Look at that. So it's got to be covering the Iranian Navy with the Russians, China, with all the bull crap they're doing. I mean, that's.
I was going to say, isn't that area where it's at right now pretty much where that mothership was?
Yes. So they've got a couple. They've got a couple of their little drone launch. Is that what you're talking about? Their the
drone motherships. Yeah,
the mothership. Yeah. I love it. Yeah, the mothership was. Yeah, the mothership was over there, but that's also where they've got like all their little, fast movers and crap that are going around. They're speedboats, not fast movers. They're little speedboats that they're constantly flying around. Sparky says these things tend to happen late Friday or early Saturday, so their markets have time to recover. This is going to be carried on for weeks, though. What's up with the mothership?
I was going to say, if it's the mothership, it better have a burqa on.
Burqa,
yeah.
Muhammad Jihad.
Yep. But another good question I got for you, Matt, is do you think this time with establishing the new Iranian government that we should allow more input from other Middle Eastern countries to help make sure that this is going to be a stable, successful regime change?
No, I don't. I'm done listening to other countries in the Middle East. Take a look at what's happening over inside of Syria right now. We just had a bunch of ISIS fighters that got released onto the streets over there. I'm not a big fan of that. And that's after the United States actually got like thousands of them back and out of there. So am I a fan of that happening? No. Do I want to see that happening again? No. I would rather take and install a puppet government and just hope for the best, to be perfectly honest.
I would too.
I would rather just have a puppet government out there and just call it a day. I don't want to give them another chance. They're just garbage, because there's too much. You've got so much influence coming, between Qatar and Saudi Arabia. I do have a very serious fear that Saudi Arabia itself is kind of pulling some strings across the Middle East for what's happening. I do think that Epstein was framing the guys in Saudi like the crown prince. I think he was flaming the crown prince over inside of Saudi. And that was one of the main causes of concern that we ended up having with why we're seeing all that crap with Jelani right now. So, yeah, I don't like it.
Now, I have a question for anybody. Anybody can answer. Do you think if we do this, Russia and China will come in and
Russia and China will come in and what?
And might start World War III?
No,
Probably not.
no, I don't think we're going to get to World War III levels off this one. But what I do think is that, you know, they're not going to be happy about it. They're going to be really pissed off.
They won't be happy about it, but it's not going to be World War III levels, because I'll put it to you this way. The Russians are down 80, or I think by current estimates, it's going to take 80 years alone for the Russians to rebuild their military. And actually, sorry, that's even like if the war were to end today in Ukraine, the Russians are going to take about 80 years to recoup their military losses. And that's if their male population recovers, if even. Then with the Chinese, they're two, with the Chinese, they only have about one war in them before most of their male population, because of the one-child policy, most of their military-age male population is going to age out. I think it was 2030, or about like 2032 is when that was about to happen, and they're saving that for Taiwan. They only got about like one war in them before they explode.
They're about out of everything. Like they're honestly, like, Russia is just about out of everything, and that's why this is such a big deal for them. This is I hate to call them a strategic partner with their war in Ukraine, but Iran's kind of like one of their strategic partners with their war over in Ukraine. And so, I mean, Russia hasn't been able to really advance or do a dang thing in a very long time. They did take some terrain here and there, but now they're getting their butt kicked again. So it's kind of this little back and forth, but Russia is just fighting this war of frickin' attrition where they're just charging. You know, I was talking with Nate Vance yesterday, and he was telling me a situation that I was just like, dear God, man, about the amount of bodies that they were stacking at one point in the fight. And he said it reminded him of like the movie 300, where you just have so many freaking dead Russians that you're literally just taking the bodies and chucking them into a stack because you've got nowhere else to put it. I mean, they tore through their population. They're tearing through military hardware and equipment. All of that crap needs to be replaced when you start fighting these wars for so long. And if you don't have the proper supplies in order to do it, you're SOL. Iran was a huge factor in that, filtering out a lot of money, laundering a lot of money for them, supplying a lot of military hardware. So if Iran's going away, that means Russia's going to be hurting pretty bad. I don't think that when they're at this level that they have the ability. The one thing Russia's holding on to is their ballistic missile capability. But at the same time, how many failed launches last year? Like half a dozen?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, ours work. That is a fact. And so if Russia tries to play games and goes, well, because of this, then that, we're going to launch, like, all we got left is our freaking ballistic missiles. Screw you, America, which is why I think we wanted to take Greenland. Because when you actually look at Greenland on that world stage, this is why Google Earth is so great. So when we take Greenland, I'm way too high up, man. I should not have been an astronaut. There's Greenland, there's Russia, and there's Canada and the United States, right? So when we take Greenland and we put it up on the map, you're entering, oh my gosh, how do people do this and like not want to, like, you know, have their freaking heads explode? You've got Russia, continental United States, and you've got Greenland that sits right in the middle of it. Whew, that's like dizzying, right? And I think those ballistic missiles, you know, are like right up over ish in here. So when they launch them, it's flying over Greenland and Canada in order to smack down into the United States. And so we want to take Greenland for that very reason. I think that's one of the things that, like, Russia in particular was looking at doing to screw with us. So not a big fan. I think we need to get rid of those bastards. But yeah.
Actually, honestly, if we were to be concerned about anything, honestly, here's what I've been kind of back of my mind kind of thought. So you know how Trump has been kind of friendly to Putin and at first he was like, okay, look, here's the deal. We want to end it. We'll give you a chance. We'll give you a chance to end it. Let's talk it out. And then Putin does what Putin does and essentially acts like Hitler. It's like, okay, we'll talk it out, and then proceeds to continue to attack Ukraine.
Mhm.
I honestly think the reason Trump was that nice in the first place is because, honestly, what my biggest fear is, because you see how the Chinese and the Russians have been cozying up to each other? Like,
Yes.
very much. Like, the only reason the Russians are in this war is because China is buying their oil
Correct.
and also funding all their shit.
Correct.
So, what I'm concerned about is they're going to look at the sick man in the room and they're going to be like, oh, hey, you see all these very rich mineral areas in your eastern part of your country that used to be part of us?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? We'll continue to fund your war effort. All you have to do is just hand those over. Or, worst case scenario, if they have to take them by military force, who's going to stop them? The Russian army?
Yeah. Well, check this out. This is interesting. That P8 Poseidon is like heading straight to Iran. So either it flicked its transponder off or something, but it looks like it's tracking. It's getting closer and closer. It was flying that back and forth for a little while. Now it's tracking something. What the hell? There's no way. That can't be happening right now.
Matt, you're ruining the OPSEC. Stop it.
Well, I don't think I'm ruining any OPSEC. I mean, either it flicked its transponder off or we're about to... Like, the question is if it blips off the radar at this point, did they get hit by like aerial defense assets or like,
just flicking on and flicking off just to screw with
yeah, or are we turning them on and turning them off?
Else.
Yeah. I mean, that's getting pretty dang close to
yeah, no, they're getting close.
Yeah. That's dang close, man. That's dang close.
I hate to say it, but it's about damn time the fucking strikes happened.
Yeah.
Here's the thing too is, these are all straight line connects from when it was off. Like it's on, off, back on. So yeah, if it's the Sub Hunter. So this thing, tracking naval ships and all that other stuff. But I mean, it's got to turn it up. Like this is wild. This is intense. Like how could it just be flying straight into Iran? Like I really hope. Like, I mean, did he bump it with his knee? Did he is it a switch you can just bump with your knee? I don't know. Pilots, I have no freaking clue.
I mean, I really also hate to say this too, but I mean, look what happened during the 12-day war. We flew planes into Iran and they couldn't do shit. They have Soviet bullshit that don't fucking work.
That is correct.
Like the S-400s don't fucking work. It's been proven time and time again in Ukraine. They don't work unless they're fighting their own Soviet shit.
Right.
That is true.
Well, Matt, have you seen the 2
feet.
Pegasus?
Have I seen the Pegasus?
Yeah, the 2 Pegasuses that are in the Strait of Gibraltar.
It is right now?
Yep. If you go left on your map, they're just flying through the Strait of Gibraltar.
Okay, but we're about to fly over Iranian territory with a P8 Poseidon.
Oh yeah, no, of course that one, yeah. It's crazy that that's still going.
Matt, way to go! You scared him off, Matt. Way to go.
Damn it! It just
way to go, Matt. Now we got to wait another week for the strike. Thanks a lot. Happy around it, everybody.
They were definitely trolling.
Freaking knew it. All right, so you said straight.
They were trolling.
Yeah, there's if you look underneath Mercia, there's 2 Pegasus, Clean 41 and Clean 42.
That's the Strait of Gibraltar.
Yeah.
No.
Which that was where, if you're tracking, that was where if it's just a little, I'm probably behind on the stream. It's potentially where the Ford is around right now still, because that's where it was spotted near the mouth, 20 hours ago?
Yeah, but I mean, they ought to be through that sucker by now. Is it past the strait?
Yeah, they're past the strait. So if you just search their search the call sign Clean, CLEAN 41.
Found him.
Yeah, there you go.
There's the Pegasus. Yep. Well,
supposedly there was a Greyhound as well earlier, but the Greyhound, you can't track the Yeah, there was a Greyhound earlier, call sign RG03, but you can't track the historic on it.
So,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I would assume that we are then either moving it back into the area to join the others, right? Like we're deploying more into the area to deploy the others, but then why would it choose to track through the Strait of Gibraltar? Or it is servicing aircraft that are escorting the fleet.
I think it's most definitely servicing because Clean 41 just turned around. And Clean 42 is carrying on.
Sure did.
And they were basically on top of each other earlier.
Yep, it sure did. It made a U-turn. They came on at the same time. So that, I mean, yeah, I mean, they're, if they're in this general vicinity, I mean, they got a ways to go. I also subscribe to the theory that the United States at this point could launch it, you know, keep like, there's a point, and I don't know where that point's going to be, where our aircraft carrier theoretically could launch and go, you know what I mean? Basically keep going while it's cruising and get like refueled along the way for the different strikes and whatnot. But I actually think that they want some of the packages that come along with it. But there's a point here where these two guys can like meet up, you know, like they could launch the operation and the Ford could still be moving in and whatnot. It doesn't have to necessarily be anchored, you know, off in the Med. It could still be closing the gap. I mean, you still got a pretty big gap that needs to be filled if that's the case. But that's interesting. I'm surprised that, you know, that these guys are even showing up on the map. They shouldn't be, unless they're just, again, there to confuse the crap out of people, you know? I don't see any of the fighters or anything up either. And normally, like the fighters before they refuel, like if you watch that for a while, when the fighters refuel, they tend to
turn on briefly.
Yeah, you see it. I don't know, man. I haven't watched it enough yet.
Yeah, no, I was watching them since they came from the mouth, and I didn't see anything. As I said, at one point, they were basically right on top of each other.
Yeah. All right. Well, I just glanced down and took a look at the time. I do have a pretty compact schedule today, unfortunately, but I will keep my ear to the ground for anything that's going on, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you guys for jumping in. Thank you for telling me about the aircraft and you guys' opinion and everything else, and being true supporters and just loving you guys as best as humanly possible. So thank you guys.
Good. Have a good one.
You too, man. Let's see. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me for another episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. We will be back in, I don't know, a couple hours here as soon as we figure out what exactly is going on over inside of Iran. Waiting for the situation to develop. Looks like we're getting pretty dang close to strike time. So I'll talk to you guys in just a few. Peace, love, happiness. God bless. I am outie.
Under imminent danger that if nothing happens, if we don't do anything about it, there will be no more Christians living in Beit Sahur today. So it's a Christian majority town, and it's known for the shepherd's fields. In Luke chapter 2, when the angel of the Lord appeared to the shepherds who were tending to their flocks, the angel appeared to them and pronounced the greatest event that ever happened in history, which